100 years ago, people were in the beginning of a new century too. They had discussions as we have today for introducing new fuel. And at that time, they discussed about introducing in the society the utilization of oil-derived fuels. And they were very afraid about it because these were flammable fuels, and this could be very risky. Well, we have a century of use of those fuels, and we know well how to use them. And the same thing is happening now with hydrogen.
My name is Tim Carlson. I'm the Executive Director of the International Partnership for Hydrogen and Fuel Cells in the Economy, IPHE. And the IPHE was created in around 2003, in fact, was its first meeting. It's an intergovernmental, policy-oriented partnership where we discuss the latest research and development opportunities, the demonstrations that are underway, policies that are being implemented, regulations that are being considered, and the implications of that. It's information sharing across governments. There are 18 members plus the European Commission, and we meet twice a year in host countries. There are activities in all the IPHE member countries. There are policies and programs being considered and have been implemented, and I think that the pendulum is increasing in those countries and in others, but there is a lot of work, a lot of research, a lot of innovation, a lot of analysis still needed to make this transition to a clean energy, transportation, and industrial structure using, in part, clean hydrogen. One of the key triggers that did happen a few years ago was the International Energy Agency published a roadmap that explicitly said electricity and hydrogen are recognized as clean energy vectors, and hydrogen is seen as a system integrator. So it's not just in the transportation area, not just in the energy sector, which is where we often think about hydrogen, but in fact it's across the economy.
What can you tell us about the real use of hydrogen energy today in the world?
Yes, it's interesting. I think it would be a surprise for a lot of people to learn that there are niche applications today for hydrogen and fuel cells. There are systems for backup power for cell phone tower systems. There are systems in materials handling where the forklifts are using hydrogen and fuel cells, and they are sold on a commercial basis. And a number of other backup power systems are also being sold commercially, as are some combined heat and power in some countries. So today there are niche markets where fuel cells and hydrogen are sold commercially and on the commercial market. That doesn't mean to say that more work isn't needed and that more innovation, more research is ongoing, and that soon we will see more products and technologies in the marketplace and a broader application. So there are commercial products on the marketplace today in niche areas, and they are being very successfully used. But the trajectory is for a lot more use of hydrogen and fuel cells globally across the economy. Hydrogen is used by industry and has been used by industry for decades, a long time. There are hydrogen pipelines and systems in place. So it, as a commercial product, industry knows how to handle this safely and has done so for decades. So there's an understanding on the industrial side how to handle. It is explosive. It is. We need to be cautious and careful. There are codes and standards developed on how to manage and handle hydrogen, but it has been handled for a long time. And so the technical people understand this, and industry understands it very well. Society, myself, we all have
this background concern?
There are a couple of things around that. The role of demonstrations has been very important, and the commitment by governments to work with industries or utilities to demonstrate how the technology works so that the companies become comfortable with it, for the regulators are comfortable with it as well. Social acceptance at the end of the day is another key factor in how fuel cells and hydrogen will be deployed in societies. Is, are citizens comfortable with the idea of having a hydrogen fueling station down the road? And demonstrations showing it, understanding it is a key step that governments have undertaken. There are assets, there's trillions of dollars of assets in the current energy system mix. And the companies that own those assets want to maximize the value out of them. So how do you work with them to continue to get their asset value out of what they have, but also move toward the vision that they have for the role of hydrogen in the future? And so this is a conversation, it will be a lot of conversations, but I think there are companies like Toyota, like Air Liquide and others that see that there's the opportunity. And with your world-leading opportunity facilities here, this would be one of the key places, I would think, for hydrogen generation and hydrogen technologies to be developed. It has been a great pleasure of mine to visit Brazil, participated in discussions and meetings in Rio de Janeiro with leading researchers and the research community there, subsequent discussions with ministries in Brasilia, discussing the role and the opportunity for hydrogen and fuel cell in Brasilia and globally, and then today here at the Technical Park of Iphe, and having an excellent discussion with researchers and the student community here on the opportunity for Brazil and the implications and developments globally.
This is the century that will become the century of the hydrogen energy. People say that the same thing that the computers represented for the 20th century will be represented by fuel cells in the 21st century. And fuel cells are the main devices for converting energy using hydrogen.